My name is Nathan Walker. I'm 32 years old, an architect living in Austin, Texas. I've never been the type to fall in love easily, but when I do give my heart, it's completely. Until a few weeks ago, I was about to marry the woman I believed was the love of my life. Someone who made me believe in destiny again. After years alone, focused on work. But love sometimes chooses the worst moments to reveal itself. To continue listening to this beautiful and special story, please leave your like and subscribe to the channel. Write your name and the city you're watching from, so I can include a special greeting for you in a future story. The story I'm about to tell isn't just about romantic betrayal, it's also about unexpected loyalty from someone who stood by my side when I didn't even know I needed it. Chapter 1: The Day Everything Started to Crack. It was a typical Thursday evening in Austin. The air was thick with that familiar Texas humidity, and I was sitting on my apartment balcony overlooking South Congress, sketching ideas for my latest project. The city lights were starting to twinkle, and I could hear the distant hum of live music drifting from the bars below. This was my favorite time of day, when Austin transforms from a bustling business city into something magical. Sarah, my fiancée, was supposed to come over for dinner. We had wedding details to finalize, just 3 weeks left until our big day. I remember feeling this overwhelming sense of contentment. After years of failed relationships and focusing solely on my architecture firm, I finally felt like everything was falling into place. That's when my phone buzzed. Sarah, canceling again. Sorry, babe. The girls want to go over bridesmaid stuff. Rain check? Love you. I stared at the message longer than I should have. This was the 4th time that week she'd canceled our plans for wedding preparation. But I pushed the thought away. Brides get stressed, right? That's what everyone kept telling me. I ordered takeout from my favorite BBQ place on Barton Springs Road, and tried to focus on work. But something felt off. Maybe it was the way she'd been distant lately, or how she seemed more excited about the wedding photos than actually marrying me. I told myself I was overthinking it. Austin has this way of making you feel connected to something bigger. But that night, sitting alone with my brisket and coleslaw, I felt smaller than ever. Chapter 2: My sister knew something I didn't. The next morning, my sister Emma showed up at my office unannounced. Emma is 28, works in marketing, and has this uncanny ability to read people that sometimes makes me uncomfortable. She's also fiercely protective of me, which I've always appreciated but sometimes found overwhelming. We need to talk, she said, closing my office door behind her. Her face had that serious expression she gets when she's about to tell me something I don't want to hear. If this is about the bachelor party again, I already told you. It's about Sarah. The way she said Sarah's name made my stomach drop. There was something cold in her voice, something I'd never heard before when she talked about my fiancé. Emma, whatever this is, just listen to me, Nathan, please. She sat down across from my desk, her hands fidgeting with her purse strap. Yesterday, when Sarah canceled on you, she went to that new wine bar on Rainy Street. The one with the outdoor seating? I nodded, feeling that familiar knot forming in my chest. I was there with some friends from work. Sarah was at a table behind us with her bridesmaid. At first I was going to go say hi, but then I heard them talking. Emma paused, looking like she was about to be sick. Nathan, they were talking about you. The Austin skyline outside my office window seemed to blur. What do you mean? They were laughing. About you. About your relation. Emma's voice was barely above a whisper. Sarah said, she said you were easily replaceable, and that she was only going through with the wedding because you have good earning potential. I felt like someone had punched me in the gut. The sounds of downtown Austin car horns, construction, people talking, all faded into white noise. You're lying. I wish I was. Chapter 3: The Recording That Changed Everything. Emma reached into her purse and pulled out her phone. I recorded it, Nathan. I'm sorry, but I knew you wouldn't believe me otherwise. I stared at the phone like it was a loaded gun. I don't want to hear it. You need to. No, I don't. Emma, this is my fiancée we're talking about. The woman I'm going to marry in 3 weeks. Whatever you think you heard, Nathan. Her voice was firm now, the way it used to be when we were kids and she was trying to protect me from bullies at school. She compared you to her ex-boyfriend Marcus. She said Marcus was better in bed but you're more financially stable and manageable. The words hit me like ice water. Marcus. I knew about Marcus, Sarah's college boyfriend who she'd supposedly gotten over years ago. She still followed him on Instagram, still liked his photos. When I'd asked her about it once, she'd laughed it off, said they were just friends now. Play it, I said quietly. Emma's finger hovered over her phone screen. Are you sure? I nodded, even though I felt like I was about to jump off a cliff. Sarah's voice filled my office, clear as day. She was laughing, that bright laugh I'd fallen in love with 3 years ago. But now it sounded different, cruel. Honestly, Nathan's so predictable. He thinks he's being romantic with all those little surprise dates and love notes. But it's kind of pathetic. Marcus would never do cheesy stuff like that. Another voice, her friend Jessica, laughed. So why are you marrying him? Because Marcus broke my heart and isn't coming back. Nathan's safe. He worships the ground I walk on, makes good money and will never leave me. He's easily replaceable if I ever get bored. But for now, he serves his purpose. More laughter. My hands were shaking. Plus, have you seen his apartment? And he's about to make partner at his firm. I'll never have to worry about money again. The recording stopped. Emma was crying now, but I felt nothing. Just Chapter 4. The week I became a stranger to myself. After hearing that recording, I went through the motions of normal life like a robot. I went to work, responded to Sarah's texts, even went to our cake tasting appointment that Saturday. But inside I was disintegrated. Austin in late spring is usually my favorite time of year. The heat hasn't become unbearable yet, and there's this energy in the air from all the festivals and outdoor events. But that week, I couldn't feel any of it. I walked through the city I loved like a ghost. Sarah didn't notice anything was wrong. That should have been my first clue that she never really saw me at all. She was too busy planning our wedding, though now I realized it was just her wedding, and I was nothing more than a necessary accessory. At the cake tasting, she barely asked my opinion. When I suggested the lemon cake instead of her preferred vanilla, she laughed and said, "Oh Nathan, you're so funny, we're obviously going with vanilla." The baker looked uncomfortable. I just nodded and That night, lying next to her in my bed, I stared at the ceiling and wondered how long she'd been pretending. Had she ever loved me, or had I just been a convenient placeholder from the beginning? I started noticing things I'd ignored before. How she never asked about my work anymore. How she changed the subject when I talked about my dreams of starting my own sustainable architecture practice. How she'd perfected the art of looking interested, while clearly thinking about something else. Wednesday night, she fell asleep scrolling through Marcus's Instagram. I saw her phone screen light up with his photos. Him at some beach in California, looking tanned and carefree. Everything I wasn't. Chapter 5. Emma wouldn't let me drown. By Friday I was a mess. I'd barely eaten all week, and my work was suffering. My business partner, Mike, pulled me aside and asked if I was okay. I lied and said I was just stressed about the wedding. Emma showed up at my apartment that evening, with Chinese takeout and a determined expression. "You look terrible," she said, setting the food on my kitchen counter. "Thanks for the pep talk. Nathan, we need to talk about what you're going to do." I opened a beer and leaned against the counter. Through my windows I could see the sunset painting the Austin skyline in shades of orange and pink. It was beautiful, but I felt disconnected from it. "I don't know what to do, Em. The wedding's in 2 weeks. Everything's paid for. All our friends and family are flying in. So, you're going to marry someone who thinks you're replaceable because it's convenient." When she put it like that, it sounded insane. But the thought of calling off the wedding, of admitting to everyone that I'd been fooled, was terrifying. "Maybe she didn't mean it," I said weakly. "Maybe she was just, I don't know, venting to her friends." Emma grabbed my shoulders and looked me in the eye. "Nathan Walker, I've never known you to lie to yourself like this. You're one of the smartest, most intuitive people I know. What does your gut tell you?" My gut told me I'd been living a lie for months, maybe longer. My gut told me that Sarah saw me as a meal ticket, not a part. My gut told me I deserved better. But my heart was still broken. "I loved her, Em. I know you did. But she didn't love you back. Not really." We ate Chinese food in silence, while Austin came alive below us. I could hear music from the bars on 6th Street, laughter from people who weren't questioning their entire reality. Chapter 6. The confrontation. I kept avoiding. The weekend came and went, without me saying anything to Sarah. She was busy with final dress fittings and bachelorette party planning. I watched her get ready for her bachelorette weekend in Nashville, chattering excitedly about the itinerary she'd planned. "It's going to be so much fun," she said, applying lipstick in my bathroom mirror. "Jessica booked us this amazing party bus, and we're hitting all the honky-tonks on Broadway." I wanted to ask if Marcus would be there. Nashville was his hometown, and I had a sinking feeling this whole trip was orchestrated around seeing him. But I couldn't form the word. She kissed me goodbye, a quick peck that felt like a performance, and wheeled her suitcase out of my life for 3 days. That's when I finally broke down. Sitting alone in my apartment, surrounded by wedding RSVPs and centerpiece samples, I called Emma and sobbed like a child. She came over with ice cream and tissues, and we sat on my couch talking until 3 a.m. She helped me see that confronting Sarah wasn't just about the wedding, it was about respecting myself enough to demand honesty. You deserve someone who chooses you every day, Emma said, not someone who settles for you. Monday morning, I knew what I had to do. Chapter 7. She didn't even try to deny it. Sarah came back from Nashville glowing. She looked happier than I'd seen her in months, which told me everything I needed to know about her weekend. I asked her to come over Tuesday night so we could talk about some last-minute wedding details. She agreed, still floating on whatever high she'd gotten from her girls' trip. She arrived at 7 p.m. with Thai takeout and a bottle of wine, chattering about her weekend adventure. I let her talk, studying her face, looking for any sign of guilt or deception. She looked relieved, like she'd gotten something out of her system. Sarah, I said finally, we need to talk. Something in my tone made her pause mid-sentence. She set down her wine glass and looked at me with those blue eyes that had once made me weak in the knees. Is everything okay? I pulled out my phone and placed it on the coffee table between us. Emma had sent me the recording so I'd have it when I needed it. I know about what you said at the wine bar, about me being replaceable. The color drained from her face. For a moment she looked genuinely shocked that she'd been caught. Then almost instantly, she shifted into damage control mode. Nathan, whatever you think you heard, I have a recording, Sarah. She went very still. Outside, Austin's evening sounds continued. Traffic, music, life going on while mine fell apart. Who recorded me? Does it matter? She was quiet for a long moment, and I could see her calculating her next move. Finally, she sighed and looked at me with something that might have been pity. Nathan, you're a wonderful man. You really are. But we both know this relationship has run its course. The casual way she said it, like she was returning a sweater to a store, made my chest tight. Run its course. Sarah, we're supposed to get married in 10 days. She shrugged. Maybe this is the universe telling us something. Chapter 8. The truth came out in pieces. What happened next wasn't dramatic or explosive. It was worse. It was matter of fact. Sarah sat on my couch, the couch where we'd watched countless movies, and planned our future, and methodically dismantled 3 years of my life. Yes, she'd seen Marcus in Nashville. Yes, they'd hooked up. No, it wasn't the first time since we'd been together. She'd been seeing him on and off for the past year, whenever work brought him to Austin, or when she traveled for girls' weekend. I never meant for it to happen, she said, but there was no real remorse in her voice. Marcus and I have history, a connection you and I just don't have. Then why did you say yes when I proposed? She looked at me like the answer should be obvious. Because Marcus made it clear he wasn't ready to settle down, and you're stable, safe. You would have been a good husband. Would have been. Past tense, like she'd already moved on. But now Marcus is ready. A small smile played at her lips. He asked me to move to California with him. He got a job with a tech startup in San Francisco. He wants to try again. I felt like I was watching this conversation happen to someone else. The Nathan who'd bought a ring and planned a wedding and dreamed of kids, and growing old together. That Nathan was disappearing in real time. What about the wedding? Our friends, our families, we'll figure it out. Tell them I got cold feet or something. People will understand. The casualness of it all was what broke me. She wasn't angry or emotional or even particularly sad. She was just, like I was a chapter in a book she was ready to close. Chapter 9. The rehearsal dinner that wasn't. Sarah left that night and never came back. She sent Emma to pick up her things while I was at work, which I thought was cowardly, but also a relief. I wasn't sure I could handle seeing her again. The next few days were a blur of phone calls. Canceling vendors, returning gifts, explaining to confused family members why the wedding was off. My parents flew in from Dallas anyway, wanting to make sure I was okay. Emma handled most of the logistics, which I'll be grateful for forever. But here's the thing about Austin. It's a city that teaches you to find beauty in unexpected places. As I walked through downtown that week, canceling my marriage and my future, I started to notice things I'd missed while I was focused on Sarah. The way the light hit the Capitol building at sunset. The sound of live music drifting from random street corners. The kindness of strangers who saw I was hurting and offered small gestures of comfort. Friday night was supposed to be our rehearsal dinner. Instead, Emma organized a small gathering at our favorite barbecue joint on East Side. Just my immediate family, a few close friends, and Emma's boyfriend Jake. We didn't talk about the wedding or Sarah. We just ate good food and told stories and laughed. My dad, who's not usually one for emotional speeches, raised his beer and said, "To Nathan for having the courage to choose himself." It was the first time all week I felt like maybe I was going to be okay. Chapter 10, The Beginning. I didn't see coming. It's been 3 months since Sarah left for California with Marcus. I heard through mutual friends that they're engaged now, which stung for about 5 minutes before I realized I felt nothing but relief. I started therapy, which Emma suggested and which turned out to be one of the best decisions I've ever made. I learned that I'd been so focused on being the perfect boyfriend that I'd forgotten to notice whether Sarah was the right girlfriend for me. I'd been performing love instead of living. Work got better too. Mike and I finally moved forward with expanding the firm. And I started that sustainable architecture practice I'd been dreaming about. Turns out, when you're not trying to please someone who doesn't actually see you, you have a lot more energy for the things that matter. Emma and I are closer than ever. She saved me from making the biggest mistake of my life, and I'll never forget that. She's the kind of person who fights for the people she loves, even when it's uncomfortable, especially when it's uncomfortable. Last weekend, I was at a coffee shop on South First, working on sketches for a new eco-friendly housing project, when a woman at the next table asked about my drawings. We ended up talking for 2 hours about architecture and sustainability and books and travel. Her name is Rachel. She's an environmental lawyer, and when she laughs, it sounds like she means it. I'm not ready to date yet, but talking to Rachel reminded me what it feels like to connect with someone who's actually interested in who I am, not what I can provide. Austin is still my favorite city in the world. The music still moves me, the food still amazes me, and the sunsets still take my breath away. But now I appreciate these things as myself, not as someone trying to be worthy of love. The truth is, Sarah was right about one thing. I am replaceable, but so is everyone. The question isn't whether you're replaceable, it's whether the person you're with sees you as worth keeping. Sarah didn't. And that's her loss, not mine. Sometimes the worst thing that can happen to you turns out to be the best thing. I almost married someone who saw me as a consolation prize. Instead, I learned what it means to love myself enough to walk away from anything less than real. My sister saved my life that day. She played me that recording. She reminded me that I deserve someone who chooses me not because I'm safe or convenient, but because they can't imagine their life without me. I'm 32 years old. I live in the greatest city in Texas, and I'm finally ready to find out what that kind of love looks like.